Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. It's that time again where I play some Green-Black Turbodepths, which is my beloved deck, and I have lots of stuff about this on my Patreon, so check it out if you're interested. Essentially, we use Dark Depths to make a 2020 indestructible flyer, and the way we do that is removing all the counters with Hexmage or making a copy with Thespian stage, and the copy has no counters, we get a 2020. We've got a bunch of tutors to find them, so Scrying, Crop Rotation, Elvish Reclaimer, fast mana to power it out, between Lotus Petal and Elvish Spirit Guide. We've got Pithing Needle to stop problem cards. We've got Thoughtseizes to take problem cards out of hand, and Not of This World to blank some removal. We've got a few silver bullets in the land like Boseiju, Bojuka Bog, Ghost Quarter, and Sejiri Steppe. And this particular build we're running today is Once Upon a Time. Now this card has not particularly impressed me in Turbodepths in the past, but it's worth trying things every now and then and seeing how they feel. So this is a card that ideally gives us a little bit more reliability with what we're trying to accomplish. We have cut a Yawgmoth and a Shifting Woodland from the deck, because these are kind of like lands and those cards are kind of like tech pieces, and Yawgmoth is a little bit problematic against some of the Cloud Post decks at the moment because you help them by giving them green mana, same with Eldrazi. So we're going to try some Once Upon a Times in those spots and see how we fare, really. The idea is that we can be more reliably going off early on in the game. And because we're running the Once Upon a Time, it means we have 3 Collector Ouphe in the sideboard to find instead of the Null Rods. If you're running Once Upon a Time, it's better to have these. Also, Faerie Macabre is a piece of Graveyard Hate that we can dig for with Once Upon a Time. Got Sylvan Safekeeper to protect our creature a bit more. Not of This World, a bit more protection. Abrupt Decay for Mages of the Moon, Blood Moon, Ensnaring Bridge, Opposition Agent. Another Disruptor Flute if we want more of that effect. And then a couple of Duresses if we need to punch a hole in their hand a little bit more. And that's pretty much it. I play this deck on my channel most weeks because it's kind of like my signature deck that I love to play. So remember to like and subscribe, and let's start making some 2020s. Alright, we are into round 1. We've got a Once Upon a Time, which can certainly help us out here, so let's keep this one. Our opponent is a friend of ours, Lightwalker, a very good painter player. I think they beat us when we were playing this deck the other day. Okay. The second Once Upon a Time, certainly worse than the first. If we take the Elvish Spirit Guide, we can make a turn 1 2020. And that seems like a pretty good approach here. So we go black source off of this, black source off of this. This turns us into the crop rotation. Okay, let's Bayou, play this one out, get our 2020 on the go. So we could make it right now, which is probably a reasonable thing to do. I'm trying to work out what we lose to. I think we just go for it right now. Right, crop rotation, get rid of this, get a Dark Depths, have a 2020. Okay, so step 1 was a turn 1 in round 1. All right. Pretty good start, and it did look all right there, the old Once Upon a Time. We did draw a second one, which we didn't really want, but there it is. So our opponent plays a multitude of different painter decks. So we don't know if they're playing white, we don't know if they're playing like just red-black. There's a lot of options. So what do we actually want here? The Collector Ouphe is an absolute knockout in this matchup, and I like the Abrupt Decays. I don't think this is a Not of This World matchup. The Bojuka Bog does have merit here. So there's a Sejiri Steppe, potentially, if they're on the white build with the Source of Plowshares, we may as well keep that in. The Pithing Needles are fine. They can slow down the Grindstone, but I think the flexibility of the Collector Ouphe Abrupt Decay is a bit better. Now, we could probably trim a couple of Lotus Petals at least. Like, they do help us do like a really sweet turn 1, but I think something along these lines, because just having that little bit punch of fast mana to get these cards out early is really important still. How do I feel about that? Or we could get rid of those and just have a couple of Pithing Needles. So we have to worry about... Actually, we're worried about Blood Moon here a little bit, which means we probably do want the Lotus Petals. It's a bit of a nombo with the old Collector Ouphe. I think that's fine. They usually have Magus of the Moon. So we can dig a little bit. We've got a couple of tutors. I think this is reasonable. The Elvish Reclaimer certainly gets us out of some tough spots here and there. So we'll keep this. Our opponent's mulligan to 4. That's quite an aggressive look for something like a Blood Moon, perhaps. Alright, we can take our turn, we can have a look at what we draw, and then we can fire off the Once Upon a Time. A Dark Depths, a Swamp, and an Urborg. Now, the Dark Depths is the obvious choice here, but we kind of need the second land just to get the Elvish Reclaimer ticking. I think that means we want the Swamp, just because it's one of our basics. So it's kind of settling in for a longer game than last time, but we might just be able to dump a turn 2 Collector Ouphe in our opponent's lap, and that will cause them a little bit of trouble. We can now play the Swamp, go and fetch. So if they Blood Moon here, we play this. Yep, okay, that's fine. So now we have a line to go and get our basic forest. Drawing multiple Once Upon a Times yet again. Not where we want to be. Right. So now we go and fetch the forest, and then if we find any other land, turn that into a Dark Depths that has no counters on, then we blow up the Magus. 3 mana, probably a Fable. There it is. Sure. This is why we got the swamp earlier, because our opponent mulliganed aggressively. What would they be looking for? Turn this into a forest. Thoughtseize isn't quite what we're after here. So we could play the Collector Ouphe, or we could just cast the Sylvan Scrying here, go and get the Dark Depths, play the Dark Depths, and be ready to rock and roll next turn. So what would get us here would be Painter, Pyroblast, our green source, or black source. That could be really annoying, but we can still draw into Lotus Petal or Elvish Spirit Guide to help us get the mana. But that's kind of what I don't want to see. All right, the Welder. There's a Painter in the graveyard there. There is a Grindstone. Understood. No cards left in our opponent's hand. Best draw for us here is an Elvish Spirit Guide or a Lotus Petal. That allows us to play the Collector Ouphe and Abrupt Decay. So we've got 8 pieces of fast mana that are good here. We did not draw one of those 8 pieces of fast mana. So now I think we're probably looking at playing out the Collector Ouphe. There's no point Thoughtseize in our opponent because it doesn't do anything here. Alright, there goes the Collector Ouphe. Next turn we can Abrupt Decay because our opponent just has the win available right now. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Pyroblast beats us here. Lightning Bolt beats us. Alright, you can have some more treasure. Just more artifacts for our opponent to welder around. Another Dark Depths. It's not really what we're after. But we're in a reasonable position here anyway. So we have to blow up the Mages of the Moon in the second main phase, unless they copy something with the Reflection of Kikijiki. Yep, still attacking him with the token, makes sense. Have to do it now, otherwise they copy it and it's around in our turn still. Alright, we got the match. So far, the Once Upon a Time looking better than I expected. But it's early days, and this is obviously a dead draw in our hand, but we had the tools we required. Let's go to round 2. On the play for round 2, not a bad place to be. This opening hand, on the other hand, is very much a bad place to be. So let's send that one right back. Turn 1, Thoughtseize. Turn 2, something else. Turn 3, like any fast mana is pretty good here. A tutor makes us want to go and get a dual land with this. So I think we keep and we'll put back an excess stage. It's a relatively big decision whether we get the Bayou or not. We do have another green source here. So it's either the Swamp or the Bayou. The Bayou allows crop rotation to be a much better draw. I think we play to our highest upside at this point. Because if Wastelands hit our Bayou, they're not hitting our combo. Okay, what selection of fresh hell is this? So there is a Lotus Petal. Sun Gold Sentinel, what's this? Whenever it attacks, exiles one together. Okay. Seasoned Engineer, we all know and hate this one. So this can be a thing they make on turn 2. They can make a Peacekeeper on turn 1. I think I can probably race the turn 2 Dungeoneer, but I don't know about the Peacekeeper because that just jams us up a whole bunch. Right, we'll take the Peacekeeper. Because Peacekeeper takes a look at our hand and causes us some issues. Cavern of Souls. Are you going to name human? They are. It kind of looks like a proper full-on human tribal over there. Not of this world. That's not what we're looking for. If we play out this Thespian stage, it means that we can fire off a Boseiju. If we play out the Dark Depths, it means that if we draw a black source, we can make a 20/20. So I think the correct play here is the Dark Depths and just, like, we don't have a great use with the Boseiju. And Boseiju is only reduced if you have a legendary creature. So we don't get it reduced with our legendary land. Like, this is very much just going to be slog to see who can bat the other person out of the game quickest. So our plan here is to play our lands in a sequence that gives us the quickest 20/20 possible. Because if they play a Seasoned Engineer, that clocks incredibly fast. Right, the Seasoned Engineer, as expected, has entered play. They are venturing into the Undercity. Basic plains, not a surprise. Pretty sure this human's deck is mono white. I guess it could have a splash for something like an AO win. Okay, so now we have a 20/20 with not this well backup due to drawing the fast mana. So not a terrible place to be. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. Are we playing around the potential for a wasteland is the question. I think we'll put a stop in our opponent's draw and do it in their draw step, just in case they scry here. Alright, they've gone for a forge. Am I playing around the wasteland? I don't think they're going to have... I guess they could have the flickery spell, Touch the Spirit Realm, but we can still answer that. I think we just make the 20/20 now. Timing is everything. Okay. We have a 20/20. We have 1 spell to protect it. We have a Boseiju that we can use next turn. They get to attack with a Seasoned Engineer, take a look at the top card of their library, decide what to do with it. Alright, they get it into hand because it's an Explore. A Solitude. You can evoke a Solitude. You can target our Marit Lage. I will counter that activated ability, or triggered ability. Alright, we got there. Powerful, not of this world action. Very much hook me up with another. Then it becomes a question of what else we want. White removal is a Sylvan Safekeeper matchup, generally speaking. The Duresses don't feel great here, since they're just going to be slamming creature after creature. The Pithing Needles aren't doing the most amount of work here. We don't need the Bojuka Bog, so that can go, and we get rid of 1 Pithing Needle. So the Pithing Needle can name Touch the Spirit Realm. It can also stop an Urza's Saga or something a bit spooky like that. We could board in some Abrupt Decays instead of Needles and just give us the answer to like some of their problem permanents. So whether that's going to be a Chalice or an Anointed Peacekeeper, something like that, I think that's reasonable to have here. Thoughtseize is punching our own life total. Doesn't feel the best, but we only care about a few of our opponent's cards and we can then just sort of push through them, is the plan at least. So I'm going to try it like this and see how it feels. Sideboarding with the Once Upon a Times in the list is a little bit different to regular. Okay. Hand is pretty good. I will keep this. This is a turn 2 Hexmage Depths with Not of This World cover. Alright, so we've got 2 Chrome Moxes coming here. Seasoned Dungeoneer on turn 1. It is a Seasoned Dungeoneer on turn 1. Now we have the ability to race that. It's going to be tight, but we can do it. They get 2 hits in, then they die. Additional spells can obviously be problematic for us. There's no way we can filter this mana into what we need here. I guess we could... True. We play the Urborg. Oh yeah, we can make a turn 1 here actually, right? So we go float black mana, crop rotate it away. We crop rotate it away now into... No, that still doesn't work, does it? We just need to go on turn 2 here, right? If we had a second crop rotation, we could do that. But I think we're just going to be passing the turn here and trying not to die. Turn 2 against an aggro deck saying trying not to die. Alright. Forge, yep, so this is going to crash us for a bunch. So this is going to hit us down to 10 in their upkeep. And then it's going to hit us down to 4, and then we win the game. Swords to Plowshares. Not of This World, you are my friend. We also have a crop rotation for Sejiri Steppe. So we have 2 layers of protection with this hand to go on turn 2. Another Chrome Mox, you say? This is probably not imprinting the Swords to Plowshares. Alright, we have the Hexmage. So it's going to put us down to 9. And then they're going to hit us for 7, which puts us to 2. Now we get our Dark Depths going before they can draw a Wasteland. They may have Wastelands in their deck, I don't know. But I know the Perez build that was it was kind of similar to this, used to run Wastelands. So this is going to put us to 3 or 2. Touch the Spirit Realm. Okay, so that stays on top, right? Reveal top card of your library, put in land, otherwise put back. Okay, so yeah. So Touch the Spirit Realm isn't for now. They have 2 cards in hand. We have 2 answers to threats. It's not to threats, to things that threaten our creature. Swords to Plowshares. Is this the one we Not of This World, or do we use this to prevent the other triggers? Like, it works either way, so I think we just say no to this now. If they got a second one, the Sejiri Steppe should do enough. Alright, we are 2-0. Let's go to round 3. Won the die roll again. Yeah, sign me up for a turn 2 with Piece of Hand Disruption. The magic gods are smiling on us today. Now, obviously, things can still go wrong. I say that all the time, but it's true. Let's Thoughtseize, see what our opponent's working with. Okay. Lots of A's, no B's. We can take the Force of Will and just shove our combo turn 2. Probably reasonable. We can't take them off of their combo. We can take the Ponder to stop them digging for their combo and hope they don't draw a blue card. I think that's the option here. But if they Ponder, then they can't do a turn 2 combo anyway. So yeah, I think we just take the Force of Will. We don't have to worry about Wastelands in this matchup, which is lovely. An Underground Sea. We're going to see a Shuko, or we're going to see the Vial. Alright, we're going to see the Vial. Don't see Vials that often. So our opponent can still turn 2 if they draw it here. But they haven't been able to Ponder for it. We have a crop rotation. That is certainly a useful piece of tech here, because we can just jam a Bojuka Bog if our opponent tries to go off. I get the Vial ticking up. There's the Ponder. So Swords to Plowshares is a thing our opponent can have, but we have the answer to that in the crop rotation for Sejiri Steppe. Unless we draw the Sejiri Steppe for turn. So Strand, we did not draw the Sejiri Steppe for turn. That fills me with some amount of joy at least. Attack for 20. It's got 5 cards in hand, so it's possible they have counter magic here. But I need to have Plow and counter magic. It feels like a Plow. Let's crack this. Go to Bayou. Cast a crop rotation. Sacrifice this so we can pay 2 mana for double days if our opponent has 2 dazes. Alright, another game going well. What do we want for this sort of matchup? We would like more protection for our creature. I think that's a given, so put these to one side here. These are things that we want access to. We don't need the Pithing Needles. It's very hard to name the right thing with the Pithing Needle, so it's kind of a bit awkward. I think I would rather board in some Faerie Macabres, and that leaves us needing one more cut here. The Reclaimer sat in play threatening Bojuka Bog is really nice, so I definitely wouldn't want to trim those. It's probably like a Lotus Petal that goes here. In the past, I've ran Steely Resolve, which is really good because you name Wizard and they can never target their guy with it. Abrupt Decay is an option, as is the Duress. It depends how you want to fight this matchup. So you can either fight via free interaction with the graveyard, which means we can execute our plan whilst also having these Faerie Macabres chisel away at what our opponent's doing at the key turn. And that is probably where I want to be. I think I'm kind of tempted to trim these Lotus Petals for some Duresses. The only problem is, Duress only hits, it doesn't hit their combo, it just hits their removal. And we're already boarding in a couple more things for that. So I think it's hard to know if your opponent's going to be going for a more removal heavy hand or not. So, like, we can hit counter spells as well. I think, do I want 2 Duresses or just 1? All right, I think I'm going to go for the 2 Duresses here. We can hit Force of Will, like a clutch Force of Will. We can hit the Source to Plowshares. Seems reasonable. So this is turn 1, Thoughtseize. Turn 2, Sylvan Scrying. Turn 3, combo. I think that's reasonable as a hand. A little bit of disruption and a turn 3 combo. Obviously, we have to attack, so it's kind of turn 4. So Brainstorm could hide the important cards here if we Thoughtseize them right now, which is certainly irritating from where I'm sat. An Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, I think I'm going to change tact here and just deploy the Reclaimer and just hold up the Bojuka Bog for a bunch. Also, we can surprise Bojuka Bog using Elvish Spirit Guide mana. So our opponent might go for it, we exile their graveyard, they lose the game. That's quite a nice option to have available. Right, just a hedge maze here. But I think the risk of them having a Brainstorm and just blanking our Thoughtseize that turn was very real. So we are going to be playing this game a touch slower than I necessarily wanted to. Shuko. Understood. They're still going to hold open that Brainstorm, sure. Another Thoughtseize. Alright, I think we're playing out the Urborg here. Firing off a Thoughtseize. A Veil of Summer. Understood. Alright, we will pass and hope that this surprise Bojuka Bog does enough. The fact that we didn't attack with our Reclaimer is a little bit suspicious, but our game isn't really about dealing small increments of damage, so maybe they'll just take it as whatever. Alright, a Ponder. Don't care about that. So next turn we can play this Swamp and turn it into a Thespian stage while still Thoughtseizing and holding up the Bojuka Bog plan. We could Bojuka Bog now, but sorry, not Bojuka Bog. We could go and get our thing now, but I don't think that's where I want to be. We just want to take this at a relatively sedate pace. Okay, there is a Cephalid Illusionist, Prismatic Ending. I don't really want this ending, and I don't really like these borrowers either. The Force of Will is a pain too. They don't have white mana yet, but I am fearful of the white mana. They didn't shuffle. I think I take the Prismatic Ending here. But the problem is they're just going to bounce our borrower, and that is a whole other problem for us to deal with. We're supposed to take the Illusionist here and just slow them down. Okay, I can live with that. So now what is the plan? Marit Lage doesn't seem like the best option, but what other choice do we have right now? We need to hold up the Bojuka Bog here. We can do that subtly, but how subtly? We could play the Dark Depths. That allows for the best selection of draws. Alright, so this way we still have a surprise Reclaimer activation. If we can generate enough mana, we can make a 20/20 and hold up a Sejiri Steppe, but we need our opponent to not have enough mana to double borrower for that. A Brainstorm, not a bad way to begin any turn of Magic the Gathering. Right, so now they have access to white mana. What is the play here? It's a tough one, because resolving our spells, not the easiest. We need to sacrifice a land here. It is awkward. I guess it's time to let the Urborg go. We could get Sejiri Steppe and protect our creature, which is a weird line that we're allowed to do. But then we have to somehow beat through double borrower without it. I think we just get the Thespian stage here. So I have Force of Will and Borrower, which is a lot of nonsense to deal with. Right, we can play the Swamp. We can Boseiju away our opponent's Shuko if we need. If our opponent taps out for some reason, then we make a 20/20. But they're very unlikely to tap out. A Cephalid Illusionist. Right, we'll let this resolve. So we could let them exile a bunch of their deck and maybe try and beat them via a weird decking strategy by blowing up their Shuko at the right time. But I don't think that's really a good place to be. With one additional mana, because this is a sorcery speed, it means that they can't keep re-equipping it. If we had one more mana, we could have made the Marit Lage when they only have one blue open, and then used a single green mana to Boseiju. But then they would have 2 blue mana and kill our thing with the Borrower. Alright, they've got another Shuko. So we're just going to have a look and see how our opponent has sideboarded. So there's a decent chunk of Veils in here. Teferi Time Raveler is certainly a problematic one. Right, they are on a Nadu build. So this is a situation where Faerie Macabre just outright wins us the game. We don't have any Faerie Macabres, unfortunately. Not the cards that we drew. They haven't hit the Cabal Therapy yet either. Got Plows, we've got Endings. All the things you'd come to expect. There's Cabal Therapy in their hand. It is. Which means they put back one of these cards somewhere on the lines. Just taking a look at their deck while they're making some decisions. They're always going for it in this point because otherwise they lose the game. Okay, do I want some Collector Ouphe type stuff? A Disruptor Flute is something we can flash in to stop our opponent from being able to cast like a Brazen Borrower at a cheap cost. But our discard gets so much better on the play than on the draw. The Duress does seem kind of awkward. I think we'll probably trim on the Duresses now because like, it doesn't hit Brazen Borrower. Just have a little bit more fast mana and take it to our opponent. Okay, we have a Faerie Macabre. We have a Once Upon a Time. We have some crop rotations, which are very awkward into counter magic. Is this one we keep? We're relying on the Once Upon a Time to do some amount of work. This is kind of why I dislike Once Upon a Time, because you have a hand like this, and like we could be like right there, or we could be very far away. I guess we're here to test the Once Upon a Time, so we should probably keep this hand and test it. But I'm not looking forward to getting Force of Willed here. When does anyone ever look forward to getting Force of Willed? The Reclaimer is solid here. Lets us play through a bunch of stuff. I'm going to jam the Reclaimer here. I don't want to play out the Petal because they've already shown us the prismatic endings. So if we take the Hexmage, we can make an attempt to combo on turn 2. But it does fall into the trap of counter spells absolutely blowing us out. We need to play a little bit slower and respect Swords to Plowshares as well. Going to get plowed straight away. Okay, so this is good because this is the plow that's being used on it, not a prismatic ending, which is kind of big news. It suggests they might have multiple plows, but I think you do just have to hit the Reclaimer on sight because it is just, oh, this is a combo. Okay, so we have 3 mana here. I think we're probably just firing off this Once Upon a Time. Could play out the Petal to play around a Daze. I think that's okay. I'm a little bit hesitant about this one. Right, so now we're actually going to be casting a fair Once Upon a Time, which is not really how I wanted to play. A Brainstorm. Yep, good cards are good. So just holding up their fetch right now. How do you feel about a Once Upon a Time opponent? They don't care. Fair enough. I think I'll take the Verdant Catacombs. We want them to know about the Faerie Macabre we have in hand. So we can play out this Dark Depths. If they tap out, we can combo, or we can at least put an attempt on the board. But you have to get through various pieces of disruption our opponent can have. We also have access to Bojuka Bog, and we have 2 attempts to get through the counter magic wall. And we have the Faerie Macabre. So we have a decent bunch of tools. Do like Cephalid Breakfast as a deck though. It's just something that's been around forever. And you got to appreciate that. Right, so we're not going to attempt to combo in the face of our opponent's open mana. That feels like a recipe for disaster. Play out a land and continue this merry song and dance. Our opponent's going to have to go to discard here. Like, they clearly have an answer. So there's no point us just jamming here until we can like maybe take a peek at their hand or have a Not of This World, so we've got an extra layer of protection. But I'm not confident that a crop rotation is going to resolve, and that is going to cost us a land. A Thespian stage. Okay, the crop rotation doesn't have to resolve. This gives us 2 chances to try and protect our creature. So we can beat a removal spell and a counter spell. We can't beat like 2 removal spells and a counter spell, or 2 counter spells and a removal spell. I need our opponent to commit to something here. A single blue mana for a Ponder. Okay. This means it's unlikely they have 2 removal spells this turn. But 2 counter spells is certainly possible. But they would have to both be Force of Wills because we have a decent chunk of mana here. Alright, are they just going to pass? They are. I don't think we go for it in the face of what's in front of us. I think we have to play the shrewd game here. Another piece of mana. I guess we could just remove counters from our Dark Depths manually. That doesn't feel like a great strategy here. But we might as well start doing it if we're not going for it though. I would like my opponent to have less mana available. Or less cards available. A Ponder, sure. But they're obviously going to live in fear because we have the combo on board. So now our opponent has more mana than they had before. Alright, this is exactly what we've been waiting for. Let's point a Thoughtseize at our opponent. I will use the mana from Dark Depths for this. In case we need more mana, we can always play the second Dark Depths. Veil of Summer. Sure. So much for that Thoughtseize. I guess we pass here. I don't know we're running Faerie Macabre yet, so we can still interact with a Teferi on board. There is a Brainstorm. An Urza's Saga. Certainly gets them towards something else, doesn't it? Do I think 2 crop rotations against our opponent's setup over there is enough? Right, we're going to crack this. We're going to get ourselves a Bayou and Forest are kind of the same here in a lot of ways. Bayou. Do I want to make this now? So 2 mana. We have 2 crop rotations and the ability to pay around days. Protect our creature. Is that enough? I don't think so. We've got some Not of This World in our deck. I think we'll probably go at the end of next turn. Alright, this is also a fine additional piece. Because this doesn't cost us our Thespian stage then, and we can rebuy pretty easily. Lots of mana to pay around. What I don't want here is to have to crack this now and just get stung by a Prismatic Ending or like a Teferi. But if they play a Teferi, then we can just kill the Teferi immediately with a Vampire Hexmage, and that's fine. Alright, they did the Brainstorm, but they did not shuffle. So lots of cards they like over there. A Nardu Winged Wisdom. Yeah, that's some amount of nonsense, isn't it? So next turn they could get to start doing the Shuko stuff. So we are going to make a 20/20 creature. How would you like to deal with this opponent? We'll play our land first. We'll play out a Sylvan Safekeeper. Very good way of protecting a Marit Lage. So this is Shroud that this gives, which is importantly not the same as protection. So we could give this protection, but if they plow in response, we then have to jam through. So that is a bit of a pain. So I assume we kill the Nardu here, which is just what we have to do. And our opponent is going to attempt to combo us on their turn. And we have 2 crop rotations and a Faerie Macabre to try and scupper that plan. Right, so they shuffled away 1 card from the Brainstorm. So now the Reza Saga is going to get them a Shuko. It's a really interesting game, this one. If it turns out our opponent just had nothing, then that would be upsetting, but I'm pretty sure they had something here. Alright, so here comes Cephalid Illusionist. The fact that it's the sorcery speed one is better for us because it gives us more windows of interaction. And they're stopping there. Intriguing. Right, they're going again in the second main phase. So there is a Thassa's Oracle. So our Faerie Macabre should do the job. There is a Cabal Therapy. I need to keep going here. We found an Archamoeba. We found 2 Narcomoebas. Let's get creative here. Let's put this crop rotation on the stack. Make our opponent think this is our line to fight. Let's strip out their graveyard here. They could have the Consign to Memory. Right, so they get no Narcomoebas and no Thassa's Oracle in their deck now. So let's just take a look at what they have removed. So there's 1 Nardu gone, we killed that one earlier. 1 Plow, 2 Plow, 3 Plow gone. Okay, no Borrowers gone yet. Prismatic Ending. I would like to give my creature Shroud. Alright, we managed to get the match. That was a really cool match with lots of back and forth, and we presented our combo really early, but we kind of waited for a better spot. We waited for our opponent to kind of do some stuff, and we ended up finding ourselves the Hexmage so that we could do a low resource depth, so we could then just immediately rebuy, so we effectively blanked the first removal just by having another copy. And Sylvan Safekeeper was a bit of an all-star. Alright, 3-0, let's go to round 4. Our opener is one of those ones where Once Upon a Time looks a little bit squiffy again. If it finds us in Dark Depths, we just go pretty quickly. We have lots of mana, we have the Reclaimer, it can find us the other bits and pieces, we have the mana to activate a Thespian stage quite early doors. I think I'm going to keep this one. We get an extra draw because we're on the draw. We're going to have a decent amount of information to impact our Once Upon a Time choices. Now, we might just be dead on turn 1. We'll see what our opponent does here. What colour mana would you like from your Lotus Petal? Just glowing Fleshraker mana. I can live with that. This matchup is a little bit trickier than I would like, to be honest, because they have Wasteland, they have so my exponent shooters for Wastelands. Alright, so that's our of land there. We have so much fast mana here. I think that means we're supposed to play the Petal and the Thespian stage. This way, if we draw Dark Depths next turn, we can just go. So if we play this for green and play this, if we draw Dark Depths, we have 2 pieces of fast mana and can just immediately make our 20/20 with a Not of This World backup. Vexing Ball was going to be a pain, but I don't think our opponent... I haven't seen that in a lot of Eldrazi decks lately. They tend to run the Chalice because the Chalice shuts off 1 mana removal spells, which everyone's playing to kill Eldrazi. You know, your Source to Plowshare, your Fatal Pushes, that sort of jam. Lightning Bolt, reasonable enough against a lot of the Eldrazi threats these days. We're getting Thought-Knot Seared. We are probably getting Thought-Knot Seared here. Kozilek's Command, targeting our poor, defenseless Elvish Reclaimer. What a sad little guy that is. Poor little Reclaimer. Just a little elf minding his own business, getting vaporized by the power of an Eldrazi Titan. Okay, so we're getting bashed by the Fleshraker. We took a bunch. They got some mana dorks out of that. Yeah, this is not the one, is it? This hand, like, we could play an Elvish Spirit Guide. I don't think that's going to win us the game, but I think it's what we're doing. Is it what we're doing? We play an Elvish Spirit Guide. We still have 1 mana, 2 mana, and the Dark Depths. So yeah, this still doesn't stop us from having Dark Depths available. And maybe buys us a turn. I would take 1 turn. So this feels like the Once Upon a Time wasn't great. Again, we kept it because we're trying to test out how the card is. Don't fill me with a great amount of joy having it in our hand. Maybe we could have mulliganed more aggressively. We had a lot of fast banners. We could do some pretty gross things if we find a decent selection of our draws. Alright, an Urza's Saga. I don't see that in the Eldrazi decks that often. Our opponent might just be straight up colourless. The One Ring, yep. That's certainly going to draw a lot of cards. And we're going to get pinged a bunch by the Fleshraker. What terrible thing is this going to be? Oh, Mystic Forge. Oh, okay, our opponent is like the Mystic Forge combo deck rather than the Eldrazi deck that I just kind of tunneled in on them being. Because all the cards they played were Eldrazi cards until this turn. Okay, so our opponent might be able to win the game this turn. But this does mean that we're in a better spot than we are against the regular Eldrazi deck because Collector Ouphe is a good sideboard card. Okay, so this Elvish Spirit Guide, not so useful. The one in play, that is. Alright, Once Upon a Time. We'll cast you. It's not really cutting it for us, this is it. The Urborg can kind of help our opponent out, but they don't really need any help where they are right now. Pretty bad swing and a miss, I would say. I don't really want to shuffle this pile up again. We could take the Hexmage and have access to a thing that stops the One Ring or a Karn next turn. I think that's probably our best bet. This will exile our own graveyard because our opponent has the One Ring protection. That's why it didn't give us a choice. Okay. So we have black, so we can play the Hexmage into the Dark Depths. But I imagine our opponent probably has the game won here. Okay, so they've got untap effect, so they get to draw like many cards. And they get to choose what those cards are to an extent because of the Mystic Forge filtering them. Alright, Grim Monolith. So all their spells just generate more mana because of the Fleshraker. And they only need to cast a few more spells and we die anyway. I think we're almost certainly dead. Right, I played a bunch of stuff out. Finally activated the One Ring here. Paradox Engine. Alright, any spell wins them the game at this point. That'll do. So they're going to burn us down with a Fleshraker. Very quick fashion there. Collector Ouphe. Very much a thing I want. We do need to be aware of Kozilek's command. But our opponent's a combo deck and I would like some Duresses. Pithing Needles. Pretty reasonable here. We could board out Lotus Petals, but getting the Collector Ouphe up and running early doors is important. We do not require the Sejiri Steppe or the Bojuka Bog. So this is a reasonable start. We could board in a Disruptor Flute. We could board in ways of defending ourselves from Kozilek's command. Those are the options open to us at this point. This Petal was definitely awkward with the Collector Ouphe, but I think the ability to play the Collector Ouphe on turn 1 and just shut down loads of our opponent's hands is too strong to pass up. Can I think of anything here that I would like to swap this Disruptor Flute for? Like, we want to have the Once Upon a Times because they get us the Collector Ouphes. We want our hand disruption. How useful is Reclaimer here? It's fine. It is a tutor. It's kind of essential to what we're trying to accomplish, but we can probably beat them down with just mediocre guys anyway. All right, we're going to go in like this. This hand does not really play that much magic. This could be a turn 3. Feels kind of slow, but we could find a Collector Ouphe. If we find a Collector Ouphe off of this, our hand is great. Otherwise, feels pretty bad. The Ghost Court is basically strip mine here, though. One of these cards has got to go. Don't know which one it is because I don't know what we're going to be drawing. Is it the Pithing Needle for the One Ring that we want to keep? Or is it this Verdant Catacombs because this gives us the quickest route and we can rely on the Elvish Spirit Guide to give us green. So we have this, Dark Depths and something else. We can go on turn 2 if we draw another piece of fast mana. Do we need the Urborg is the next question. It does allow us to do this, but we already have the +1 mana from this. So I'm going to send back the Urborg, I think. Alright, free Once Upon a Time. Am I happy or sad to have you in the deck? Let's find out. Okay, Collector Ouphe. This is what we wanted to happen. Alright, the thing that we drew up happened. So they can answer this with a Kozilek's command. That is something to be aware of. But they can't use all their big artifact mana to do it. Inventor's Fair. A Manifold Key. A Vampire Hexmage. Can be useful down the line. We will attack with our Collector Ouphe here. I will play this on Urza's Saga. Just shut that right down. We don't have any Surveil lands, but that's fine. Ancient Tombs. So they're 1 mana away from Kozilek's commanding to kill our Collector Ouphe. Not super happy about that possibility. Alright, the Duress is an excellent draw. I guess we just get a Bayou here. See what you're working with. Monolith, Grim Monolith, Grim Monolith, Mystic Forge. Okay. I guess it's the Mystic Forge. It's the sort of unique effect over there. We can play out this Ghost Quarter. It's cracked for a little bit. So we can Ghost Quarter our own Bayou to get a swamp to then play a Hexmage. A Paradox Engine. Sure, that still works, but it doesn't necessarily do very much. An Elvish Spirit Guide. I think I can attack with the Spirit Guide. I think that's what this is for now. We're playing mediocre beatdown. 3-turn clock. Alright, so they can actually tutor with the Inventor's Fair. I think we're supposed to Ghost Quarter this, now I think about it. Because they play a Grim Monolith here. No? They're just playing the Forge. No, we already took the Forge away. Khan the Great Creator. Alright, we have an answer to that in hand. But they have the ability to go and find something nasty. Alright, they've made the Paradox Engine into a guy. Not a super fan of that one. An Urborg. That's pretty reasonable. That allows us to cast a Hexmage here. Blow up the Khan. Ghost Quarter away the Inventor's Fair. Stop them being able to tutor for a problem permanent. They might have a waste. They didn't. Okay. So then we have to let this Paradox Engine sit for a sec. And we can go back to Bastion. So our opponents bought themselves a bit of time there. We could just draw Dark Depths at some point as well. And just immediately put a lethal threat into play. Mystic Forge. Sure, you tap that Ancient Tomb. It doesn't change the clock for what we have in play. But if we can find another creature, it does change the clock. A Pithing Needle. Smash him with these. Let's play a Pithing Needle on Khan the Great Creator. So their win conditions basically are Artifact Stuff, Khan, and Urza's Saga. And we've shut all three of those things off. Kozilek's Command is a real card that they can do stuff with, but they won't be able to activate this Urza's Saga. I assume they're going to play out one of these Grim Monoliths now. A Basalt Monolith. Oh, I missed one of these Grim Monoliths somewhere, did I? Oh no, they're playing this off the top, so they do still have the 3 Grim Monoliths in hand. A Sylvan Scrying, you say? Guess we bash. This turns off their Ancient Tomb. Cast a Sylvan Scrying here. We could get the Boseiju, which might be better than anything else here. We don't get to fire it off immediately. Kill our Collector Ouphe. What do we do then? Like, Kozilek's Command is a real problem for us. That's a tough call. I think I'll get the Dark Depths though. Deploy it. Like, if they have a Kozilek's Command, they have to use it on our Collector Ouphe. Our opponent should know if they're dead or not. They know they're dead. Okay, good. So, that went alright. I would quite like the Disruptor Flute, I think, now. Maybe we need slightly less tutoring. Although this is a good tutor because it finds the Boseiju to actually fire off. But I think we trim this. We definitely need the fast mana on the draw because we have to get our creature into play as soon as possible. So I think this is a reasonable swap as well. Right, let's see if we can do it. A Thoughtseize in our opener and a Disruptor Flute are both useful things. But how are we going to win the game with this hand? I don't think we can just mulligan to Collector Ouphe. If we draw any tutor, Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, or Hexmage, we can win with this hand. So I will keep this one and rely on the 1-2 punch of Thoughtseize, Disruptor Flute to carry the day. Okay, just an Urza's Saga. We Urza's Saga gaming or not over there? I guess we'll find out in a sec. A Lotus Petal. So, I think we're casting the Bayou, using the Bayou here. Reason being, if we want to turn this in, if we look at our opponent's hand and we have to turn this into a Ghost Quarter, I'd rather keep the Urborg for now. Let's have a look. They got 4 cards over there. What are they? Khan the Great Creator and Spatial Contortion. I'll take the Khan the Great Creator. Would I like to Ghost Quarter my opponent, or would I like to Disruptor Flute? Either way, it's going to cost us 2 cards. The crop rotation is better for our actual game plan. So I think we are on play these out, Disruptor Flute on the Urza's Saga. Now our opponent can draw other payoffs, and that will be problematic for us. But we should be playing around the thing that's in front of us, right? If they just make a token, all of their dead artifacts, or their potentially dead artifacts, all of a sudden turn into damage, and we die very quickly. So we should be playing around the thing that's right there in front of us. It's also, you know, a pretty good card to do things about. It does let them sequence their lands in this way. Again, it's not the end of the world. Crop rotation. This gives us the win next... Well, this gives us the combo next turn. Spatial Contortion, pretty weak at beating Marit Lage. So they could get a Pithing Needle here. They got a Lotus Petal. There's a City of Traitors. They found some kind of payoff. Khan the Great Creator. Not a bad payoff, is it? They would like to reveal an artifact from outside. What artifact is this going to be? Is it just going to be like an engine card, like a One Ring? Or is it going to be something to disrupt what we're doing? Something like an Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, Mycosynth Lattice. Alright, if our opponent taps out for that next turn, we just win the game pretty much in response. Let's crack this now. So we want our opponent to tap out for this Mycosynth Lattice. Alright, looks like that's what's happening. I hope there's nothing Khan can get that kills our guy for like 1 mana. A Grim Monolith. Okay, so we know our opponent's hand right now. Crop rotate this away. We'll go and get a Dark Depths. Crop rotate this away. We'll go and get a Thespian Stage. this targets non-creatures, so it can't kill the Marit Lage. To make it 2020, they've got a Karn and 1 mana. We good? Oh no, what is this? What have they got for 1 mana here? I guess it's not 1 mana, it's 3 mana, isn't it? Because they can untap the monolith. Yes, they get the ensnaring bridge here. So we now need to draw... We need to draw Elvish Spirit Guide and Boseiju to win this game. Yeah, that Grim Monolith draw was really clutch for our opponent. A Pithing Needle that we can't cast because these don't activate for mana. We don't get to attack because of the ensnaring bridge. Okay. We got a few turns to draw something. We do have an out to this. We don't need lands. A Manifold Key, that doesn't do anything. We just need the Spirit Guide and the Boseiju. Because it only costs 1 green mana to channel Boseiju if we have a Marit Lage in play. Alright, Lotus Petal does not do it. I do not believe our opponent is ever going to pass a turn with 20 cards in hand. It's not going to happen like that. Vampire Hexmage, that's not the one. Alright, opponent's turn. They've got a lot more things that work here than we do. And the Karn's going to be drilling its way up towards getting in other things in the near future. I think we've missed our window here. Yeah, the Grim Monolith to give our opponent the ability to make the Ensnaring Bridge as well as the Lattice was unfortunate. Now, the deck does have a lot of mana, so it's not the wildest thing that they drew it. It's still pretty annoying because it had to be... Actually, no, it had to be exactly the Monolith. I don't think there was any other card. Alright, Verdant Catacombs, no point playing that, it just dies. So now our opponent is in the let's slowly kill you mode. Now, they might have something really sick with the Karn here, like a One Ring, something along those lines. That would be pretty good. We also have the... Oh, they're just sacking the Inventor's Fair right now for a One Ring. I was going to say, they have the Inventor's Fair. If they gain 1 life off it, that's really annoying. That means we have to have 2 turns of trying to bash. Right, our opponent's continuing to play things. I will cut to when something interesting happens. Okay, another Flesh Raker. That's kind of an interesting thing. This means our opponent can whittle us down pretty sharpish. They went for the Mystic Forge rather than the One Ring, which is kind of interesting to me. So they have the One Ring here. Feels like a pretty big ask for us to win this one now. Actually, the Grim Monolith they played wasn't a top deck, was it? Actually, now I think about it. That was one of the Grim Monoliths they had from the start. I think that was this game where they had the triple Monolith. Was that this game? Well, we got 2 in place, so maybe it wasn't this game. I'm thinking about the previous one. Either way, that... No, they didn't have it because we had perfect information. It was just the... whatever the 2 mana removal spell is. Yeah, we're unfortunate they drew the Grim Monolith there. I think that's the only card that stops them. I guess if they drew a One Ring, they could protect for a turn and then things get pretty sketchy for us. But yeah, unfortunately our win streak has come to a close, but it was pretty close and I'm quite happy with how this matchup looks anyway. Right, let's go to the final round and see if we can put a 4-1 on the board. Well, we're into the 5th round, but our opponent hasn't quite shown up yet, so we'll see how this one pans out. Alright, well, our opponent never showed up to that final round. So we end up with a 4-1. I hope whatever happened to our opponent was alright and it was just a misclick and not something of an emergency fashion. But yeah, we finished 4-1 with Turbodepths, and the one round we lost basically came down to our opponent drawing exactly Grim Monolith on that turn. And even then, we still had an out if we had runner-runner draws. So not too shabby. Let's talk about this list and how I feel. Begrudgingly, the Once Upon a Time looked alright here. I would like to play some more games with it. We did have 1 or 2 hands that were a bit clunky because of it, because we didn't necessarily know how much of a keeper our hand was and what our game plan was. Although it did absolutely come up trumps there and just find us the Collector Ouphe, but it could have easily found us nothing and just cost us the whole game. So it does give and take away. I'm going to do some more testing with it because, you know, the record today was pretty good. Now, it should be noted we did have some pretty good hands, but Once Upon a Time does smooth your opening hands. So I think we're going to keep our eye on Once Upon a Time and try and jam it a little bit more in some future leagues, maybe messing around with some of the other peripherals here. But yeah, I think this deck is fine. Like these 3 slots here can be pretty much anything. I do like the 2 Reclaimers main deck at the moment, but these are kind of potentially cuttable if you like. So you've got 5 slots to work with in this list, whether you want more discard, whether you want more Not of This World, maybe you want disruptors in the Disruptor Flutes in the main, you want more lands. I would not cut these without replacing them with at least 1 land. So Shifting Woodland is a good example. Yawgmoth is fine too, that sort of jam. But yeah, the deck felt really solid today. I do love this deck, and like I said at the top, if you are interested in this deck, go to the description, click on my Patreon link. I have a guide, a free guide to like budget Turbodepths on there. But then I have my paid for guide in one of the tiers where every month I talk about the meta, I analyze what's going on, where our deck sits, what we should be doing to tune our deck to the meta. And then there's also just a massive guide about what cards we play, what cards we don't play, what the list looks like, how to sideboard, the mentality of sideboarding and the strategies in different matchups, including a guide to sequencing lands and which order you want to play your lands, which we demonstrate quite a lot, where we're saying, okay, this is a matchup, we want to try and make the fastest lands possible. So what is the fastest way with what we have in hand to assemble the Marit Lage? So yeah, there's lots of stuff if you're into it, and I also write articles on there, usually about Dark Depth strategies, but sometimes more generally about Legacy or other decks. Alright, I think that's it for today. If you like this deck, check out the Patreon, check out previous videos, because there's plenty of them on my channel if you like Turbodepths. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.